all, and welcome to another day of NaNoWriMo. I hope you have all been doing well these last few days. It's been a few tough days for me, but I hope to be able to change that. So today I brought my bowl of cherries as a snack to keep me going, and my trusted bottle of water, because that's important to have while you're working. So keep that in mind and stretch every now and then when you're writing to keep the writing juices flowing. Let me know in the comments how you are doing, and what your goal is. What are you trying to achieve this month of NaNoWriMo, and how far have you become? Have you come in that goal? And let me know how I and my other colleague writers can help you achieve that goal. It will be fun to do, and it's always fun to be able to spar with others about your writing and about everything that plays around in your story. For me, I hope to be able to reach my goal of 1,500 words today. I haven't been able to write in the last few days since the last live stream. I had a few things going on in real life, so I hope I'll be able to make 1,500 words. But I have to be honest and say, well, it might be a bit hard, because I started my prologue last Saturday, and now I'm at a point where I'm not sure how to continue this particular prologue, or better yet, background story, because it wasn't something I had planned to write in the first place. It was something I came up with at a certain point to see if maybe I could get more background info besides just a few bullet points. So yeah, I'll see how far I can go, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just skip to the next background story. Today I will keep the live stream a little shorter than last Saturday. I think I will stop around 8:30, because that's a limit for today. In the meantime, I will start a sprint soon, and if you'd like to join, please join, and let me know in the comments or in the chat how things are going. In the meantime, have fun, and let's start our first sprint. We now have about 20 minutes left in our sprint, so good luck. We now have about 20 minutes left in our sprint, so good luck. We now have 15 minutes left. I hope you're doing all right with your writing, and I'll wish you good luck. that's the end of our first sprint session. How did it all go? Looking at my own target or at my own result at the moment, I managed to write almost 370 words, which makes my total 1,350 words. So I still have about 200 words to go, but at least it's something. And who knows, maybe at the end of this, at the end of the next session, I may have reached my goal of 1,500 words today. It's a small goal, but it will be a good goal for today, for me personally. What did you write about today and in this session? And was there anything you were struggling with? For myself, like I said in the beginning, I had a lack of idea of how to continue where I started last Saturday. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in my story yet, in this part of the story, especially because I simply hadn't thought about it. It's something that that's not always easy, I find, and that's how shall I say this? When you haven't written an outline of a story, you really need to write your story as you go. And if you have basically no idea where to go, then it can be hard. And in this case, I hadn't intended to write this background story for this particular character, for this antagonist, and I had a very rough idea of where she came from, how she got into the story, and what her past was, and what made her to be the way she is right now. But I hadn't written a background story or anything about the other characters from her past, the other people who mattered to her or who didn't matter to her. So that was something I hadn't thought of yet, and that's not necessarily a problem. But in this case, I started writing this background story, and now I think, maybe I could have done it differently. At the same time, it's not something I expect to include in my in my complete novel. It's more that I needed this background story just for myself, to have a better understanding of who this antagonist is, where she comes from, what her mindset is, and how that can influence the rest of the story. Because often it is thought, okay, there's an antagonist, there's a villain, and you often see that the villain or the antagonist has only one goal, and that is to be the one who destroys the protagonist, or who does everything he or she can to thwart the development of the protagonist, and to do everything he or she can to make sure the protagonist can't reach their goal. I feel that there is more to a villain or antagonist than just being the counterpart of the protagonist. A villain or antagonist also has a background story and has a history, has people he or she cares about or cared about, has people she or he has to deal with, or has to order around, or has to do things for, or maybe people who do things for him or her. So the antagonist is a, in my opinion, a full character on his or her own as well, and that is something that you cannot ignore and that you shouldn't ignore. It doesn't mean that you have to write a complete background into the story, into your own story, but it is good to know where that character comes from, and what drove him or her to be that antagonist, to be that that villain as they are, and what drives them to block everything the protagonist wants to do. That I think is a thing that several stories might even miss, and it doesn't mean that those stories are lesser for it. But I feel that having that that depth of an antagonist also brings more depth to the story, and I think that's a good thing. So that is why I decided to actually write this background story and to understand my antagonist better. And initially I thought I wanted to write a prologue, but the more I thought about it the last few days, the more I decided that I won't use it as a prologue. I might use some parts of it in future references, maybe in flashbacks or something, or where other characters might read about it or might hear a story about it. In that way, this background story hasn't been written for nothing. It still gives the depth that I'm looking for. It gives me the tools to make the antagonist better, and hopefully it gives the readers also the how shall I say this, the information they need to maybe even not like the villain. I don't necessarily need readers to like the villain, but at least appreciate that the villain is there, and appreciate respect how the antagonist got there, and understand her motives for doing things, and why she might see certain characters in a certain way. I can't divulge into that too much, because I don't want to give away too much of my story. But let's just say there are things that my main character, my main protagonist, might see in the main antagonist, of which she thinks, okay, I can understand you at a certain level, and I can maybe even respect you at a certain level. And I think that that's an important thing as well. Sure, you can have a character that's a protagonist that just hates the antagonist for whatever reason, and vice versa. But I think that in the end, it is better when both the antagonist and the main protagonist have a certain level of respect for each other, and a certain level of understanding for each other. It doesn't mean that given the same choices that or given the same situation, let me put it that way, that each of them would make exactly the same choice. because they both have different backgrounds. They come from a different setting and a different mindset, but they might be confronted with a similar or even the same situation, and they might be able to respect what the other did, even if they don't agree with it, even if they don't agree with the choice that's being made. And for me to be able to write that, I think it's important to have that background information, to have that background story for this antagonist. And I think it's having such background stories, so not only just simple bullet points or a simple objective history lesson about an antagonist. You really get into the mind of the antagonist, and you really sort of experience what the antagonist has been through and why she came to be who she is now, and why her mindset is like it is now. And that is very important, I think. And specifically for this antagonist, it will play a bigger role in the later books. Probably not in this book yet, because there are some. How shall I put it? There are a few things that might play in this book, where you see something happening with this particular antagonist that comes from her background, and is not based in the current situation, but more has a base in her background, which is quite old. While in later books you will really see, you'll start to see more of where her mindset is coming from, and where why she does things that she does at that moment, and why lots of people initially won't see it at first. So that takes time. It will be interesting to see if I can actually write it the way I have in mind. I really hope that I can, but it will be fun to try. So I hope to be able to show you something about that later on, but that will be way much later than this month. I don't think that I can show you anything about it even this year, but that's okay. Speaking of this year, who has an idea of where he or she wants to go with your book? And do you have any publishing ideas, or none at all? I, for myself, at the moment, in the end, I hope to be able to at least publish my series. It would be awesome if a traditional publisher would, in the end, be willing to publish my series. If not, at least I hope to be able to publish it myself. But that's something I'll look into the future. For now, I hope to be able to finish this version of the book. This is my second. Yeah, technically it's I think my third draft. Yeah, I think it's my third draft. I hope to be able to finish it in a way that it is good enough to send to alpha readers by the end of this year. I know there will be a lot of work to do until then, but it will be fun. I think November will be a good month for me to see how things will go, because then we'll be let's see, it's August, September, October. Yeah, then we're about 4 months along, and I hope I can write a lot in the coming 4 months, and I hope to be able to perhaps use November to really finish this version of the book, and that it is actually really complete, as that it has all the elements that I want in it. It won't be complete as in spelling checks and grammar checks and things like that. It probably also won't be complete with checks of things that are not correct, like, I don't know, one of the main characters always uses a brown mug, and suddenly there's a styrofoam cup. I don't know, Game of Thrones, anyone? So yeah, that might be mistakes like that might still be in it, but at least it will be readable. It will be better readable for alpha readers by the time I have finished it, by the end of the year, hopefully, preferably sometime before Sinterklaas, which we have here in the Netherlands, before the beginning of December, because December is a month of celebrations and all things happening, a variety of things happening. So I prefer to have it finished before then, but I give myself some leeway to finish it up around Christmas, before the new year. My ultimate goal is to have it finished by the end of this year, and to send it to alpha readers sometime in January. I don't know if I will manage to do that, but for now that is my goal. So I've got a lot of things to do, because I have a lot of chapters to write and rewrite, and I have a lot of scenes to add to existing chapters, because I found that several characters were not properly included in my previous versions, and have much more or are much more part of this story than I originally thought they would be. So that's a challenge, and it's a fun challenge, and it took me quite a while to see which characters needed to be added, and to see to find what their history was with each other, what their history was with the other characters. For example, I have one. I originally had the Dragon Rider's king with his second wife, and two sons. Both sons were from his first wife. I hadn't thought about any other children, and at a certain point I found that the Dragon Rider's king and his second wife, or rather that the second wife of the Dragon Rider's king, I have to be correct. The second wife of the Dragon Rider's king already had a child from another man. In Dragon City, that's a city-state in my book, that isn't a problem. It isn't a problem that the Dragon Rider's king married a second wife. His first wife died, by the way, when the first two boys were still rather young, which will be part of the story, as people will find out. How it is part of the story, I will not reveal yet. But going back to the second wife, the second wife had a son earlier, before she married the Dragon Rider's king, and she lived in another country with another man, whom she was married to, and at some point, for some reason, I haven't quite decided yet why, that second man, that first man of hers, let's say, didn't appreciate her anymore and kicked her out, banned her. And in that country, men can quite easily ban and kick out their wives and just get another wife, and that's all, no problem. But he banned her in such a way that she isn't allowed back into the country anymore. So she had to flee. That man also didn't appreciate his son, who is actually his biological son. So he kicked out both the mother and the son. And eventually they ended up in Dragon City. And, well, the Dragon Riders King met his second wife, and eventually they married. And that's all nice. But what do you do with the son that's there? How does he respond to a second man in his life? But also, how does he respond to these two brothers he suddenly has? To be honest, I have no experience with that. So I hope that alpha and beta readers in the future can correct me if I have written things that are really completely out of line or completely unexpected or unrealistic. But for now, I have a certain idea in mind, and I hope that it works. That it works for my readers, for my future readers. And in the end, the way I have thought it up right now is it gives depth to the story, gives depth to the several relationships in Dragon Rider City, between the Dragon Riders King and his own biological sons and his bonus son. It gives depth to the relationship between the second wife and the two sons that were already there, so her bonus kids. So yeah, that was something I had to figure out, and that was something that I have thought about for quite a while, and that's it. It's a good thing because I think it makes my story better, and at the same time, it took me quite a while to develop it and to realize to realize more of the story of the storyline. To make a better outline, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. It made me realize as well that the chapters that I had written were partly not that convincing, at least not that convincing to me, and of course. It has to be convincing to me to be able to convince you, the reader. Because, I mean, if I can't convince myself, how am I going to convince the reader of my books, future reader of my books? So that is how I discovered that I needed to include not only more information, but also certain actions in existing chapters, and I needed to add several chapters, but I also needed to make changes to my already existing storyline and existing timeline of my story, because I needed to know where certain of my characters were at certain times, and what they could have seen, or what they could have done, or what they could have experienced by the time they were at other parts of the story. So yeah, that's why things took a bit longer than I expected. But in the end, I think it will help me in the coming months, in these 4 or 5 months, to well, to write a better story and to make it, to give it more depth, to give it more emotion also, to make it more immersive. And I think that's very important. In the meantime, I'd like to start another writing session, because I'm slowly starting to get more ideas for this current prologue of my antagonist. It will be fun to see how things will continue in the future of the book and of other books, and how much of this prologue, or rather for now background story, will play in those other books and in the whole story. So for now I will take a quick break and I'll be back in 5 minutes, and I hope to see you there. And hello, welcome back. I'm sorry, my excuses. I just had a few, several of my cherries I had set aside, and I had a sip to drink. So I hope you have had the chance to have a few snacks and something to drink as well. And keep in mind, it is absolutely important to stay hydrated, especially if you are in the northern hemisphere like I am, and you are experiencing a warm summer like it is here right now. We have a nice what is it? I think somewhere between 20 and 23 degrees Celsius. That's a nice temperature to have and to be writing with, not too hot, and we can still be quite active, which I think is a very good thing. And if you are in the southern hemisphere, I hope you have a good winter, which is good with nice weather, sunny, and perhaps some freezing, so that you can go skating, perhaps. Is that something that your characters do as well, or don't they have skates or no ice around? Maybe they are in the desert, in the hot, humid desert, or hot or dry desert. I mean, well, some places in the desert can be humid, but mostly it's hot, I think, at least. So think about that. I'll give you that writing prompt for now, and perhaps for later on. In my particular case, my current character will not be in a desert. She is in a mountainous area. I think it's closer to autumn. I haven't quite decided yet. Like I said earlier, this wasn't something I had intended to write, so I haven't quite thought about what time of year it is, and if it's what kind of season it is they are in. So yeah, that will be something I either discover along the way or just don't write about at all, since this is not going to be a major part in the book, at least. So I suggested we start another writing session. This will be my last writing session for today, as I have a bright and early morning ahead of me for tomorrow. So I have to go to sleep quite early today. I hope you're having fun, and if you are watching this live stream later on, because I will keep this live stream alive after I have finished it. Please respond in the comments to what you are doing, what you are writing about, what the goal is for this month to achieve, and what I can help you with. And if you would like to join the world building Discord, we have set up, a friend of mine and I have set up specifically for NaNoWriMoers. Please take a look at the link in the description below. I will post it there as well. We are there to help you build your world and get through hurdles at the same time, and to be sparring partners where you want, where you're looking for them. Yeah, have fun. And let's start another writing session. Let's see how far we can go. We have 20 minutes left in the writing session. I'll see you on the other side. because I hadn't expected to even surpass that goal I had set for today. So that's a lot of fun, especially when you feel that. How shall I say this? That you have no idea how to continue, and you're not in your best. You're not in your best writing form. Then it's a joyful result to even get above your target goal of the day that you're writing. So I'm very happy with it. And along the writing, I now discovered that I didn't quite know enough about a certain kind of magic I decided to have in my book. So I need to do some more world building about that at some point in the future. But at the same time, I am actually doing the world building while I'm writing it. I'm actually currently writing that part while I'm writing the story. So I'm discovering this part of magic as I go along, and that's also fun to do. I might not include several parts of this, but it's something that needed to be explored, and I have to say that I didn't even realize that I needed to explore that. So that's fun. In this particular chapter, in this background story, my antagonist is still quite young. She is not an adult yet. She's in her teenage years, and she is learning about a controversial form of magic. And what that is, I cannot tell you yet. I do know it, but I can't tell you yet to avoid spoilers. I would hate that. Well, in the sense that I know several people don't like to be spoiled. As for me personally, I don't mind it, especially when I see a series or read a book that starts in a certain way, and I have a certain idea of an ending, and when that ending wouldn't happen, or I can already find out that ending isn't going to happen, I might not read the book. Because I know I will be disappointed, or I might not view the series or the movie. At the same time, I just might read the book because I like the writing style and I like the character, and I do want to know how the story develops and why it comes to that certain end. Whatever end that may be, I don't mean that characters will die or something, just a different ending than I had in mind. That can also be the case. So yeah, this is I won't spoil about this piece that I'm writing at the moment. If I happen to be able to get my books published or publish my books myself, I might include it in a sort of anthology, or just publish it on my website in the future or something like that, so that you can still read it afterwards. But at the moment, this isn't going to be anywhere. Some elements of this background story, I already said, might be in flashbacks or something, or I might just use the information that I write in this background story in my final books in another way to do something, or to have my characters do something that I need to be done, and it could be done perhaps with what I'm writing now. We'll see about that in the future. So in the meantime, I hope you had a lot of fun during these writing sessions. Saturday at 2 p.m. Amsterdam time, I will have another writing live stream with several writing sessions, and also with some fun word games, which you can join from the chat in YouTube. And those are anagram word games and guess the picture. So that's another way of thinking of words, and it's just to get your mind off of your project for a moment, and to get your writing juices flowing in another way. So if you're stuck, then that can be ideal. And at Saturday we will also look at how things are going for all your projects, and see where you might need help, or where you want help, or maybe you just want to spar for a moment. I know Dida and Thomas and I did that for about an hour, I think, last Saturday. I hope it was really helpful for Thomas. In the end, we might have kind of grilled him on a few things, but it was meant as constructive help, and not a negative comment. It was just to get things more clear because things were not clear to us at that moment. So we truly hope that both Dida and I truly hope that we were able to help him with that. In the meantime, I will just keep on writing in tomorrow and Saturday morning as well. And I hope that you all have good writing weather, and I hope that you can achieve your goals for the coming days. If you want to be notified when my next live stream is, subscribe, and you will automatically get a notification of my next live stream, and in future also of other videos that I might post, and writing prompts in the shorts. So have fun. Bye bye.